The Blues dropped the second game of the short road trip to the Minnesota Wild 6-4 last night in another game that had several swings and turns to it, very up and down, and whether the Blues controlled the game or the Wild controlled the game, it seemed like it changed every period almost. But we're going to break it all down today in that 6-4 loss, what good came from it, what bad obviously came from it, and what to do looking forward here. But welcome everybody to the Blues Reaction Show. I'm your host, AJ Nance. And of course, if you're listening or watching over there on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and like the video. If you're following us or if you're listening to us rather on Spotify or Amazon Music, make sure to follow us over there as well and rate us. And, of course, go follow us on all social media, on Instagram, on TikTok, at Arch City Sports for daily St. Louis sports content. A 6-4 loss last night to the Minnesota Wild. I explained how there was a lot of turns to this game, and it came right from the jump. First period, first 3 minutes of the game, the Wild were up 2-0. We got punched in the mouth early in this one. Zach Bogosian and John Merrill, both with goals in the first 3 minutes. They're both defensemen for the Minnesota Wild. I'm going to kind of dive into why that's important by the end of this episode here. So it's 2-0 early in this one. There was a little bit of controversy with, I believe it was the John Merrill goal, some goalie interference, and also something I don't know if even is being talked about a whole lot, but Shen was obviously just being completely in a physical match pretty much next to Bennington anyway. So that I mean there looked like some stoppage of play should have been called. The goal should not have been allowed. There was a lot going on with that play, and obviously Monty and the whole bench was not very pleased with the no call. 2-0 throughout the most of the first period. Not a whole lot of scoring chances for us. And then at the very end of the first, Buchnevich with a goal, his 10th of the year from Holloway and Falk. Holloway, a very nice pass on this one. So it's 2-1 after one. We go into the second period. The Blues, like they do very often, they get goals in bunches. And we did. The first 5 minutes of the second period, 3 goals for the Blues. Jordan Kyrou, his 18th goal of the season, continuing his best start to his season in his career. His 18th goal of the year on the power play from Falk and Holloway. Again, two assists for Holloway on the night. Then Jake Neighbors, about a minute and a half later, on what was one of the best goals I've seen this year when it comes to just the play progression. From Tyler Tucker's amazing tape-to-tape pass to Bolduc a lead pass to Sonny, and Sonny across the ice on a 2-1 advantage to Jake Neighbors for Neighbors' 11th goal of the year. And then a couple minutes after that, Robert Thomas, his 9th goal of the year on a really nice pass where the puck was rolling out slowly to Ryan Suter. Ryan Suter could have slapped it. Made a nice little push pass over to Robert Thomas right by the net, and Robert Thomas, at a very tough angle, lifted it over Gustafsson. Assad also got an assist on that play, I should mention. So it's 4-2, a big swing there. It was 2-0 or 2-0 for most of the first period, 2-1 after one. We score 3 early goals in the second period. Now it's 4-2. We have the advantage, right? No. Near the end of the second period, Eriksson Ek, a goal, made it 4-3 going into the third period. A 3-1 second period for the Blues. A lot of good stuff, especially early on in that period. We go into the third, and another Minnesota Wild defenseman gets a goal in the first 2 minutes. Jake Middleton, I believe that was his 6th goal of the season, might have been his 7th. Now it's 4-4. A couple minutes later, Matt Boldy, he scores his, I believe it was 16th or 15th goal of the year. Now it's 5-4, and the rest of the third period got pretty quiet. And I think this is what happens when really good teams have a lead late. The Minnesota Wild made everything really tough. We had a lot of possession in the third period, especially late in the third period, but there was not a whole lot of scoring chances or goal opportunities because they just clogged up everything, even on our end. Even though we had possession, they clogged up every type of passing lane, every type of shooting lane that we had. That's what great teams do. So not a whole lot of scoring chances in the third period. We did pull Bennington with about 3.5 minutes left in this one, and even though there were 3 icing calls, we continued to have, whether it be fresh legs, we kept that Thomas Kyrou group out there as long as possible. Through one of the icings, still kept them out there. Obviously, with an icing, the Minnesota Wild players cannot get off for a line change. So those guys looked absolutely gassed. It was the Johansson group. And then after the second icing, we switched it up real quick to give that Thomas line, that Thomas group, on that 6-on-5, a little bit of a break. We bring out a line that did not have very much offense at all. I believe it was Saad, Bolduc, Sundqvist, that group, just for a little spot for Thomas's group. We did get another icing call, so we got another set of fresh legs out there, and Monty had a tough decision. He could continue to kind of keep that Thomas line group out there and then the fresh legs, or he could call a timeout. But the thing with calling a timeout is then you give, even though you can set up what you want to set up, you're giving that Minnesota Wild group out there a break. And I don't think Monty wanted to do that, and I actually respect that call. We just could not capitalize. And shout out that Minnesota group for holding us down. They got a clearance with about 50 seconds or 45 seconds left in this one, and Marcus Johansson with the empty net goal from about middle of the ice. So honestly, I really thought we would score. I felt really confident, especially after a couple of the icings. I'm like, they're absolutely gassed, but they laid it all out there and held us from tying it up. So a 6-4 loss for the St. Louis Blues. What's one thing that really stood out on the good side of this one? A player that stood out to me that I thought had his best game of the year and potentially of his career. He's known for his toughness defensively, scrapping quite often, actually, and that's Tyler Tucker, who's been up and down from the minors to here, and I thought he was very impressive on both ends of the ice. Now, obviously, like I said, very much known for his willingness to drop the gloves, and also obviously physicality overall. Not known for his offensive ability, but that was put on display in this one. He didn't have a goal, he didn't have an assist, but he did have that amazing tape-to-tape pass from well deep in our end, all the way to about little past center ice. To, I believe that was, let me double check that. Yeah, that was the one to Bolduc, then the pass to Sonny, 2-on-1 chance, advantage, and then Jake Neighbors put it in the back of the net. So he led that whole thing. But that wasn't the only one. There's a lot of plays throughout the game that if you were not watching it and you just looked at the box score, you would not realize how many amazing neutral zone tape-to-tape passes Tyler Tucker had in this one. And very impressed with his passing ability on this one. Obviously, the physical game defensively showed up as he always does, and he's a perfect third-pair defenseman. He's not going to score a lot for you, whether it be goals or assists, points in general. But he's great. He's very solid defensively, and he's willing to drop the gloves for you whenever he needs to. So, perfect third-pair defenseman, and what you should see in the box score was he was +2 on the ice. So, really solid game for Tyler Tucker. I think it's the best game I've seen him play in his young career so far. The guy's only 24 years old, still turning 25 in March. So, very, very impressed with Tyler Tucker on both ends of the ice in this one. And I do have to say the star of the game. I usually do our 3 stars when the Blues win. I'm not going to do that for this one, but I will say the star of the game in general is the Minnesota defenseman. I mentioned at the very beginning how they scored 2 goals really quick with Zach Bogosian and John Merrill, and then how they were defensemen and how that was important because that Minnesota defensive group, even though they gave up 4 goals tonight and Gustafsson was pulled for Marc-Andre Fleury after giving up those 4, those Minnesota defensemen were absolutely amazing. 3 goals, 2 assists, +6 on the ice. And I do have to give a huge shout out to a guy that I haven't talked about at all in this episode is Marc-Andre Fleury. The veteran, future Hall of Famer, brought in after Gustafsson gets lit up in the second period, which also obviously, you could say was kind of a controversial decision. He comes in just very, very good in this one. 16 for 16 in net, absolutely shut us down. And so a 6-4 loss for the St. Louis Blues. And I made a video a couple days ago talking about how the next 8 games, there are 7 very winnable ones and the Minnesota Wild one. And how we should be winning at least 6 of these 8, hopefully 7 of the 8, and we could really, catapult for the rest of the season. We are 0-2 now after making that video. A loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets the other night, which we should have won. We were in it the entire time. A game in this one where we were up 4-2, up 4-3 after the second period, and we coughed this one up as well. So now we're sitting at 19-4 at the 42-game mark, a little over halfway through the season. And the next 5 games are about as must-winnable, I think, at this point in the season as possible. You have the Anaheim Ducks at home on Thursday. Then you have the Blue Jackets at home on Saturday. I will be at that one. You have the Flames at home twice. And then we go to Utah to play the Utah Hockey Club on the road. The biggest thing here is the Blues have 13 of their next 17 games at home. And as we're standing right now at 19-4 record, this has to be the stretch of the season where we cannot just, tinker around that middle of the pack 500 record. We need to catapult ourselves with these very winnable games moving forward here. So 0-2 after making that video about how the next 8 games are extremely vital to the rest of our season, and we have another 5 or 6 here where we need to take advantage of this opportunity. So a tough loss in this one, back-to-back tough losses where I think both games were extremely winnable after, coming off of a tremendous Winter Classic and a 4-0 shutout versus the Senators. Really tough not to be able to pull these ones out. A lot of good things from both of these games. I really think so, especially this Minnesota one. But we just could not get it done in the end here. We were shut out 3-0 in the third period in this one. Really tough end to this one. So I think Jake Middleton's goal in the first 2 minutes kind of set the tone for the third period, and from there on, we just could not get it done. But shout out that Minnesota Wild team. They're very good on both ends, have stars on both ends, and so and really good goaltenders. Even though we did not see the best of Gustafsson tonight, he can be really shut down as well. So really good team over there with Minnesota, a team that's definitely in the talk for contention this year, and hopefully we bounce back. I mean, we have to against the Ducks, Jackets, Flames twice, and Utah Hockey Club coming up. But that's going to wrap it up for this Blues Reaction Show. Thank you, everybody, for viewing and listening, whether it be on YouTube or Spotify or Amazon Music. Wherever you're listening or viewing, make sure to subscribe and follow over there. And, of course, like the video on YouTube. Rate us a 5-star on Spotify or Amazon Music. That would really help out. And, of course, go follow on Instagram and TikTok for daily St. Louis sports content from Cardinals, Blues, St. Louis City, high school basketball, SLU basketball, and now we're going to be covering Mizzou and XFL Battlehawks football as well. So that's going to be really exciting moving forward. So make sure to go follow over there to keep up with everything, and I will see you guys for the SLU Billikens reaction show versus their game, in their game versus St. Bonaventure tomorrow morning, actually. So a huge game for the Billikens tonight, a chance to keep that 2-game winning streak, undefeated streak here in the A10 moving forward against a very good St. Bonaventure team that also sits at the very top. So I will see you guys for that one, and stay safe out there.